Do you know what a neurological disorder is? No, you don't.
Hi, I'm a sophomore at Torrance High University, and I'm going to force 5 minutes of your time so you can learn about this thing you don't even care about. Mental and neurological disorders select and torture 1 in 4 people around the world. That's 25%. After they select you, they put you in 3 main groups: OCD, depression, and bipolar disorder. Alright, look up everyone who's watching this with their mouth half open. We're going to explore into depression and anxiety. Depression is a mental disease that makes its victims feel really freaking sad. It affects 6.7% of adults in the US annually, and researchers still aren't fully able to understand what causes it. One hypothesis for the cause of depression is the lack of this chemical called norepinephrine. Okay, so norepinephrine is this organic chemical in your brain, more specifically in the hippocampus, that increases levels of arousal, blood pressure, heart rate, and focus. It's a neurotransmitter, aka a chemical messenger, which means it transmits signals to your nerve cells. This is why drugs like Ritalin and Adderall increases levels of norepinephrine to help one focus. See, that's all cool and stuff, but when you have low levels of norepinephrine, it leads to hell, basically slapping your face with ADHD, depression, and hypotension, which means low blood pressure. There are drugs out there to help increase norepinephrine or increase the activity of norepinephrine in the brain, but those give you a lot of unwanted side effects. Now we're gonna talk about anxiety disorders. Anxiety disorders choke excessive anxiety and worry down your throat, okay? It makes you worry so much that it interferes with your everyday life. Every day, the anxiety gets worse and worse and worse. One prominent example of anxiety disorders are panic disorders. Guess what they do? Yeah, they make you panic. They give you repetitive, unexpected panic attacks that cause short periods of fear, shaking, and excessive sweating, which means that you're gonna need to take a shower more often. Another example of anxiety disorders is social anxiety disorder. Unique name. People with this disorder have a marked fear of social situations because they expect to be judged and rejected. Y'all might think anxiety disorders have little to do with health, but physical health conditions, like taking a lot of drugs, can worsen the situation. Moreover, a mental evaluation can be useful since these kinds of disorders coexist with other conditions like OCD or depression. Yes! Yes, I'm done!
Okay. Hi, I'm here to talk to you about bipolar disorders. Now, most people tend to believe that people who are crazy emotional are bipolar. It's actually the other way around, and people who are bipolar are crazy, and people affected with bipolar disorders tend to switch from one state called mania to another state of clinical depression. According to Kay Redfield Jamison, who had bipolar disorder her entire adult life, patients with bipolar disorder cannot sleep for days on end and feel long periods of euphoria. Soon after these manic states, patients would fall into crashes and go into spiraling suicidal states. Clinical depression is soon to follow after this. This is, of course, very awful, and people with these conditions are able to seek help through medical treatments and therapy, which I do recommend for most of you. Not to say that some of us have bipolar disorder, but simply a mood disorder. These mood disorders, which also correlate with depression, can mess with your neurotransmitters and affect your daily life. The chemistry between a depressed brain and a manic brain are very different. Norepinephrine is severely lacking in depressed brains, but is overflowing in manic brains. Some medicines, like clonidine, reduce levels of norepinephrine, while Adderall increases them. But what may cause these bipolar disorders? The answer is simply biological, genetic, and environmental factors, meaning they run in the family, and you're more likely to suffer from said disorder if your mom or dad or a sibling has them. Even a stressful episode can lead to a bipolar disorder, and this is where we come to stress. Stress. It affects all of us. It's a common symptom every teen has, and stress has an incredible strain on our psychological health. Here's what happens to our brain when we stress. The amygdala sends a threat message to the hypothalamus, which in turn tells the sympathetic nervous system to protect you from attack. This is the fight or flight response. The nervous system increases heart rate, constricts some blood vessels, and dilates others, slows down the intestines, inhibits digestive secretions, and prompts glands to flood the system with cortisol. If there is too much cortisol in your brain, some serious damage to the hippocampus can happen. One class of stress hormone responsible for negatively affecting memory is glucocorticoids. It can facilitate and impair the actions of stress in the brain memory process. In our hearts, blood vessels constrict during the stress response, which makes it harder for the heart to pump blood. High blood pressure from constricted vessels and increased cortisol and thyroxine only worsens the chance of inflammation and arterial plaque buildup. Cortisol also releases fatty acids, and if those get into our bloodstream in great amounts, it can lead to low-density cholesterol. Cholesterol present in the blood as low-density lipoprotein, a relatively high proportion of which is associated with a higher risk of coronary heart disease. And although we can also lose weight while stressing, it can also increase our weight in a way we call stress eating. It's pretty gross. And that's what this stuff is really like. Don't stress about it too much though, it won't be on the test.
Yeah!